Now we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of what Indians are all about.
I still say we Indian people are believers in the truth. This is the way of life that was given to your people. You're born an Indian, you're going to die an Indian. Indianness is a good life. You're facing an Indian this afternoon.
Good Saturday afternoon out there, everyone. Welcome to your number one source for Native American television news. It's MvskokeVision. I'm your host, Jason Salzman. Want to wish everybody out there, again, a Merry Christmas. Hope you had a great Christmas holiday and wish you a Happy New Year coming up this coming weekend. And I know everybody out there excited to get 2019 off and running. And with that being said, we're going to look back today this week on our best stories of 2018 on the program. And our first one out of the gate, very meaningful story from the Coon family, bringing the Mission 22 National Vets Remembrance Memorial to Oklahoma and Creek Country in Broken Arrow.
According to the Department of Veteran Affairs study, each day over 20 veterans take their own lives. Mission 22 is a national nonprofit initiative raising funds to combat veteran suicide by providing veterans with treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder. Muskogee citizen Michael Coon knows the battle all too well. He lost his son in 2015 to suicide and is now a steward of the national memorial called The War at Home.
Well, when it first started, I became a Mission 22 ambassador after the loss of my son. They reached out to me, wanted me to be, if it'd be okay for me to let my son be part of the Mission 22 silhouette in his honor. And I said that was fine. When I reached out and saw the other families and how they were suffering, and it was hard, kind of emotional, hard for them to talk about it. But being like my father and stuff, being strong and stuff, I decided to step up and take charge of being the one to be the spokesperson for Mission 22 as far as for the families.
Next summer, the memorial will move from Norfolk, Virginia to its new home at Broken Arrows Veterans Park.
It came about that they decided that I need to be the steward of the memorial for Mission 22. And at the time, they had talked about it being a traveling memorial. But then after we did the first one at Norfolk, Virginia, which is there now, we seen that it was going to be kind of costly as far as funds to move it from state to state. So then they asked me, well, what do you think about Oklahoma presenting that to the cities who would want that memorial to come here? And I said, well, is it going to be moving or is it going to be permanent? And they said, no, we want it to be permanent. It's to be here 50 years or longer until eternity. And so when they said that, then I started to work with Oklahoma to get going to the Mayor's Veterans Council to talk with different various organizations about getting funding as far as backing support for the memorial to come here. I reached out, when I did reach out to the council, I came up, one of the council members from Broken Arrow, Deborah Wimpy, came up and said, we want that memorial.
I met Michael at the Military History Museum here in Broken Arrow because he's donating his son's silhouette to the History Center. And I just thought, that's the first time I had heard about Mission 22 and what they stood for and how amazing the memorial that they had was. And then fast forward to being several months later, I was at a Veterans Council meeting in Tulsa, and at that council meeting, veteran groups go around and talk about needs that they have, and I was there that day to do a thank you on an event that I had some help with, and when they got around to them introducing themselves, he stood up and he said, you know, I've been working with Tulsa and got all the way to the city council section, and it wasn't approved, and they don't have a place for this monument. We really like to find a home here in Oklahoma. And I think I might have jumped out of my seat and was like, you know, Broken Arrow will take you. And which I've said, sometimes I say, we'll do it without, knowing what it takes to do it. But I just thought, we've got to have this. Like, why Tulsa wasn't able to make this work, I don't know. But I think it was because we were supposed to have it.
Broken Arrow was the fit. And what brought it to me was because Broken Arrow is our Muskogee Creek Nation boundaries. And so it's like having this national monument brought here to our backyard.
We set up a meeting with our Parks Department, and Scott Esmond went over kind of the logistics of, what does this mean for the city, like cost-wise or whatever, and come to find out the majority of it is all taken care of, if not all of it, by Mission 22, which is also amazing, that it's not even a burden financially on the city to have such an amazing national monument. So it was almost like a no-brainer. So when it came before the council, I mean, I already knew that we were approving it. I wanted to be able to tell them that, but it's part of that process. But leaving there that night, knowing that we are going to be able to bring this amazing monument to Broken Arrow, and I think about how our paths crossed, with Mr. Kuhn and Teresa. It's all divine. So I just think it's meant to be that we have this amazing monument. It's a national monument that the city of Broken Arrow is going to have now, and we're very proud to have it. I'm looking at the veterans that we're still having trouble with PTSD right now. They need a place to come to where they can gather their thoughts. Every veteran has a different mission in life and stuff. And so when they come here, they'll be able to sit here and look at these 20 that went on before them to know that, hey, I can get help. That's why Mission 22 has stepped up to make it suicide awareness for vets and first responders and everyone. So that's why I think this memorial would be good for Oklahoma. Plus, it's central located in the United States, from all over the United States. This is a central place for it to be. So this is a place, to me, that I think that with the prayers and everything that I've received when I became the steward of the memorial, that this is the place that it was supposed to be. And so when I think of my son coming here, I think of the other families too, of the ones of what they had to endure, the same thing I did. And it's just like they had the same government car come up to their house to tell them that their son had taken their life, or daughter had taken their life. So to me, this is a place for all veterans to come. It doesn't have a certain group that it takes. It takes homeless, it takes people that's marital, financial, and plus being from overseas. We don't even know what they have endured over there overseas. But then when they come back, they don't have no wounds on the outside, but they're all inside and mentally. And people before would always say hush hush about why we want to. What's wrong with him? Well, we need to help them. We need to reach out and help these vets is what we need to do.
One of the biggest news makers in our state this past year was the teacher walkout, the work stoppage, the dissent upon the Capitol from the teachers around the state. We were fortunate enough to go and embed ourselves in that story on one of the first days of the Capitol takeover by the teachers, and it was one of our best stories this past year.
What do we want? When do we want it? Now!
These were just some of the chants heard at the state capitol in Oklahoma City on Monday, April 2nd, as teachers, students, parents, and many others came to support an increase in education funding. Many said this was not strictly about a pay raise for their salaries, but for education funding as a whole. Teachers talked about why they are there fighting for more funding.
These are my kids. I'm here for this right here and my own kids. We need funding for our schools. They are the future, and if we don't do something now, we're in more trouble than we are now. We have to beg and borrow and plead from classroom to classroom to find materials to fill our room. We're having paras cut, we're having support cut, programs are being cut. We've already lost teachers or paras for next year. We've lost computer programs that kids use. We've lost those for next year already. Something's got to be done.
As many teachers have stated, this is not just about their own pocketbooks, but about the students. Students seem to be the driving force behind why teachers are there to try to get an increase in education funding. Muskogee Media spoke with Choctaw High School student William Erie about why he is there to try to convince lawmakers to increase education funding. Erie talks about outdated textbooks and other things he sees as a student.
Just the lack of funding and stuff like that for just textbooks and just the per people spending and stuff like that is just kind of.
What kind of? How old are your textbooks?
I think. Well, I know his textbook. We looked at it last night. I think is like 8 to 10 years old. One of those. So.
Okay. And I see you're in band.
Oh yeah.
Play the trombone.
Yes, sir.
What have you seen funding as far as like education, like for the arts, like band and music?
Well, I know that during band, sometimes we go to like contests and stuff like that. So my band directors they have to pay for their subs. If we go somewhere to take care of the other kids, we have to pay for our school buses. We have to, just stuff like that. So we basically have to pay to get there. We have to pay to use school buses, which is kind of, weird.
What do you want them to know about you being here today and you being out of school?
That it matters, I guess. I mean, it's worth it. I mean, I think a lot of times there's all these arguments for why teachers should still be in school, but it's like, that's such a closed-minded view of, like, it's just a short-term view, I'd say. So it's just very, you got to think of long-term, and long-term, where you can't keep doing this. I mean, it's really not good. I know there's some elementary schools in my school district that would turn the lights off in the hallway just to save money. I think that's kind of ridiculous. You should see some of the desks. I had a friend that sat at a desk last year and it broke. It actually broke. I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny, at the same time. I mean, you know what I mean? So, it's just ridiculous.
Behind the Capitol building, many gathered on a walkway over a busy highway to try to get drivers to show their support. Honks are being heard in this next interview with Chrissy Frost, a student teacher from the University of Central Oklahoma. Frost spoke about what she sees in the classroom on a daily basis.
I get to see every day students who are sitting in desks that are broke, bathrooms with ceiling tiles falling down. I mean, it's pretty sad, the situation that the students are in. The bill is nice, that's great, and we can come here and say thank you for that, but the students, they're left out of this, and if we're going to hold our students accountable for their work being complete, then we expect the exact same thing for legislators. It's no different. If that's the standard we're going to hold them to, why not? Why are legislators any different?
With the uncertainty of how long the teacher walkout will last, or how long it will take legislators to pass a new bill in order to increase education funding, teachers like Atticus Dellinger and others have stated that they've had to pick up second jobs or the possibility of relocating.
I don't want to speak for everyone, but it's definitely in the back of probably most people's minds. If the state really just doesn't show that they stand behind their teachers, it's definitely plausible that we lose a lot.
Leslie Christopher was there with her third-grade daughter, Emmeline, as she stated her fears for her daughter's future. She fears that the teachers nor the resources will be there once her daughter reaches high school status.
Well, I just believe that education is worth it. I believe that we need to not only pay the professionals who teach our children as the professionals that they are at a level that a professional deserves, but I also believe that we need to provide them with the resources that are needed to adequately teach, not adequately, effectively teach our kids.
One of the favorite projects I got to do this year personally was go and film and put together this next story you're going to see, which is the oldest remaining living Youichi speaker, the speaker of the Youichi language, with the youngest immersed speaker in the Youichi language. And this was a wonderful story to actually go and do and put together and bring to you now again here on our Best of 2018.
Galacin, ZTA, Maxine, Wildcat, Barnett, AZT. I was born into a Youichi speaking home, but when I had to go off to school, to a boarding school, in my high school years, I got away from it. But when after I graduated and came back to Sapulpa, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I had to work, and but I never forgot my language. I knew the words, but there were so few Youichi people at Chilocco where I went to school that I never got to talk to anyone. My brothers and sisters were there and a few people I know, but we were all in different buildings, according to our ages. So I see them and wave at them and maybe talk to them just a little bit, but we just weren't close anymore. But we saw one another, and I guess that was just enough for us. We knew we were all there. But when I graduated and I came back to Sapulpa, those who did not have to go away to school like I did, they were still here speaking the language. And they say, "Can you still talk?" I'd say, "Well, I can't make a sentence." I said, I know the words, but I haven't used the language. I haven't used it. And it's true, you can, because I miss it now because I don't have the elders around to talk to that I used to talk to all the time. What's up? What's your name? Hello, go on in that doctor. Ow!
Galasa, Najadik Nachi Sanle, Shushpa Honzogini, Ujiha Zayada, Seminoliha Zayada. Go Chatlako Wedine, Ujiha go Wedine, Dahe Onkomfe. Abe Sedo Shanle. So this is Chaske Ashtale, Turning Heart, and it's my grandson. And his mother, he's now 2 years old, and his mother has only spoken to him in Youichi language all of his life. She's never uttered a single word of English to him. And I'm the same way with him. I only talk Youichi language to him. So he comes to the Youichi house most days of the week, and he gets to talk back and forth with the elders. He sometimes maybe gets a little bit shy, doesn't always want to speak out, but it's very fun and very rewarding to have him interacting in the language. And it's very, it's kind of, I don't know what to call it, it's very cute when in Youichi language they call me Shushpa, but he usually sounds like he's saying poopa, which is so, it's very cute, to have this name coming out. So he does really good. And so most of the things that his functional language is in Youichi, but there are English words that he hears around from other people and picks up some of those words, but his actual sentence structure and thinking is in the Youichi way, because that's all he's ever heard from his mother and myself all of his life. And then his father, Giles Turning Heart, is, we call him Yalewi in the Youichi way, and his Nakate, and his he does use some Lakota language as well, so he's picking up some Lakota words to go with it.
But now we have some teenagers, 14 and 15-year-old girls, and maybe 2 or 3 boys that can carry a conversation. And that makes me real happy, because knowing, that they can do, and they want to learn, and they learn so fast, even just like him. I just can't believe that, it's almost unbelievable, but then you hear it, you see them, and I just look forward every day to being with them. It tires me out. I'm glad to get home. And just like they ask me every day, how are you? Did you sleep good? I said, I sleep good every night. I really do.
And our last story of the day comes to us from Oklahoma City. We were so blessed to be able to get time with the newly elected, at that time, mayor of Oklahoma City. Now he's settled into the job in the office. David Holt, the first American Indian mayor of Oklahoma City.
First, I'll say something about the history I think we're making. It's not, I think an American Indian mayor of any large city would be exciting, and I bet that list is pretty short. We can't even find it. Nobody keeps it, It may be something to look into, but to be the mayor of Oklahoma City is especially unique. It's not like being the mayor of an American Indian mayor of Detroit. I mean, Oklahoma is obviously the capital state of many tribal nations, and the biggest city and the capital city of that state is a special place. And it's kind of unfortunate that we haven't had this happen in the last 125 years that we've Oklahoma City has been planted here. But I'm excited to carry that banner forward. And in this campaign, I talked a lot about one OKC. That was kind of my whole theme throughout. And it was a nonpartisan race, which is in some contrast to the politics that we currently have around the country. And I was able to, I took advantage of that. I said, I'm going to chase every vote. I'm going to build a coalition of people from across the ideological spectrum, from across our city. I mean, here in Oklahoma City, we have divisions like every city does. I mean, the Latino community lives here, the African American community lives here, but and we all live in our bubbles, and I tried to break through those walls, and I plan to continue doing that as mayor. But we ultimately had a coalition of support: Democrats, Republicans, people from the north side, people from the south side, people from the east side, African Americans, Latinos, American Indians. We had it all, and I was excited and proud of that, and we're going to carry that forward into the governance. My background is that I spent 5 years at City Hall before I spent 8 years here in the Oklahoma Senate, so I'm very familiar with how Oklahoma City got where it is. A lot of people here feel that we've been on a good track and that there's a lot of momentum, but we want to make sure that extends to all parts of the city and that it continues. Yeah, I want to be the mayor for the whole city. And too often in current American politics, politicians say, here's how I'm going to get to 51%. and I don't care if that means the other 49% hate my guts, And that's no way to lead, and that's certainly no way to bind this thing together. Here in Oklahoma City, we've got 650,000 people within the city limits, and that's, as you can imagine, that's a very diverse group of people. Here in Oklahoma City, I think one of the reasons we've never had an American Indian mayor, and we've had pushback on things like Indigenous Peoples Day, is that we were the unassigned lands. There is no tribal headquarters here in Oklahoma City, which is odd, really. I mean, every part of the state and the state government has these deep interactions with tribal governments that we sort of lack here in Oklahoma City. But that's changing. You have the Chickasaw Nation has sort of staked a claim here. It's not their traditional tribal land, but they have put a lot of investment here in Oklahoma City. They're becoming sort of the de facto tribe of Oklahoma City. Other tribes have got, are starting, I think, to build more involvement here. And then the city is partnering to open the American Indian Cultural Center, which is going to be a world-class facility on the Oklahoma River. So all of these things are happening at the same time. And then I come into office, and here in Oklahoma City, this has been actually a fairly divisive argument for 2 or 3 years. Every fall it comes up, whether we're going to have an Indigenous Peoples Day. And certainly, as the first American Indian mayor, and as a place that hosts the Red Earth Festival, as a place that's going to host the American Indian Cultural Center, as a place that is the capital state of essentially Indian country here in Oklahoma, capital city, I mean. You know, we need to resolve this. I don't want to continue to have a public argument every year about Indigenous Peoples Day. And I saw that Tulsa adopted a version of it. I think they called it American Indian Day. And I need to get in there, in the office, kind of get everybody around a table and kind of figure out where can we find some common ground, and let's bring this to a resolution. I am not going to preside over 4 years of arguments about Indigenous Peoples Day. This needs to be brought to hopefully a positive resolution, and I believe that there's something definitely there that I will support. You know, I was raised here in Oklahoma City. I wasn't raised in Pawhuska or Osage County. But my grandfather, you know, he grew up going to Indian schools. Everybody in the family and in his circle called him Chief or Uncle Chief, which now seems a little insulting, but you know, but at the time was their way of appreciating his heritage. And you know, so I know where I come from, but at the same time, I grew up here in Oklahoma City, and I didn't necessarily get all the cultural experiences that I would have if I had grown up, you know, closer to the tribal headquarters. But as an adult, I've really tried to tap into that. I've gone to the events as an adult that we have in Pawhuska. My kids now, 8 and 6, are little Osage, and I want them to feel a part of that. And so I've taken them to our tribal dances in Pawhuska, and I've built relationships with several of our chiefs through the last few years. So I take great pride in it, but I don't play the card if it's of any benefit to me, because sometimes I feel like I didn't grow up that way, and I didn't face the disadvantages and challenges that others might have. But at moments like this, I definitely wanted people to know, you know, after it happened, because I felt like this is a point of pride. It should be a point of pride, just like when Sam Bradford won the Heisman Trophy. Or, you know, I mean, these are moments that I think are evidence that people like my grandfather, you know, worked hard to fight back against, you know, distrust and bigotry, and create a life for his family, where someday his Osage grandson could be the mayor of Oklahoma City. And I think that's a journey that goes back 100 years that reached a pinnacle on February 13th here in Oklahoma City. And I think all American Indians and Natives should feel some pride in that, because it's all of our family's journeys.
I want to thank everybody for joining us this week, and as we look back at the best stories of 2018, some of our better stories that we've put together, and there's great memories from each of those stories, and going to get a chance to get all of them. I really had a great time amongst the people this year. I want to thank everybody out there for watching us once again. I want to wish you all a very happy new year. 2019, may it be as blessed as any that you've ever had. So thanks for watching us here on MvskokeVision. We'll see you guys next week and in 2019.